And third division against first division, well, it couldn't be better. If you're new to rugby league, you don't watch a lot of rugby league, I suppose it's similar to the Wrexham versus West Ham type of confrontation. It's an early ticking off there for the Barrow forwards, a little bit fired up.
Well, Dave Kendall was the man who was definitely fired up a bit too much, the big number 8 forward, and that's rather silly because they've had the kick-off, they've kicked deep into the Bradford Northern 25, and that's where Paul Kavanagh would have wanted to keep Bradford Northern, right down there. It wasn't the best of kicks into touch, but nevertheless it has relieved the pressure for Bradford and just slowed things up, and they won't want that, Barrow.
So we're seeing the forwards driving in early. I think we're going to see a real forward battle in these early stages as both teams strive to gain the ascendancy. Barrow tonight welcoming back their captain David Cairns, who missed their 3 matches in the first round. It took them 3 matches to dispose of Keighley and set up this tie. And Bradford looking good in these early stages. There's Tony Marchant, the ex-Castleford man. We'll have a look at the teams when there's a lull in play. Well, that's a touch-finding kick. And the Barrow winger there, number 5, Gary Westwood. There's the team there. He's wisely allowing that one to go into touch. Pat Traynor, the full-back for Barrow. And there's the team's Tony Kay's a man with a vast experience. And welcoming back David Cairns at number 7. That'll be crucial for them, Ron.
They'll be looking for a lot of play from David Cairns, and of course the experience of Tony Kay and Roy Haggerty, 2 ex-St Helens players. They'll want big games for them today, but I've just watched the 2 props, both brothers there, and you've got Dave and Gary Kendall. They've started off very, very fiery, and obviously they're both looking to put a big game in.
So Barrow hooked the ball out of that scrum, as they would expect to do with their head and ball. That's not a bad little run there by Westwood. Well, spilling that ball, and that's not a good mistake to make on your own 25. It was the loose forward for Barrow, Neil Shaw, who dropped that one. And put them, there's the Bradford Northern team, Ron, and experience right through the team.
Tremendous stuff there, and of course David Hobbs on the substitutes bench, and he'll be looking to come on at some stage.
In front of him, so I think a penalty try would have been a little harsh, Ron. It still means 2 points, assuming that the Barrow loose forward Neil Shaw can pop this one over. There we go. Oh, no problem. Huge local following here for Barrow. That will have cheered them immensely, because there was a danger after conceding those 6 points, their heads could go down, Ron.
Well, I think it's quite interesting because already Barrow have shown that their 3/4 can tackle, and the way Traynor linked up there, they've broken the Bradford ranks down with the greatest of ease, and a try under the sticks would have really lifted them, but at least they've shown they can break the ranks. It should give them confidence, and now they've got to get down, do their job, and tackle well in the forwards.
So 6 points to 2. Bradford Northern from the first division lead Barrow, the home side, the side with the lion's share of the fans here at Craven Park tonight, and how they will have enjoyed that. Well, mere try by Traynor. There's the second rowers they're looking for, Kerasoma and Haggerty, to make ground for them. And we've already seen that they're capable of doing that. There was a fumble there, a bit of over-eagerness, and in fact it's the handover, I think, there. Mistake made on the last tackle. No, it's a kick.
Well, it was a penalty there because he didn't play the ball correctly, and Mr. Cummings quite quickly onto the job and penalised him. You've got to play the ball as quick as possible, put it onto the floor and clean it away. Doesn't matter which direction, but certainly Mr. Cummings wasn't happy there.
So it's a bit of a set move here for Bradford. They'll try and smuggle the ball through to the other prop. That's Paul Gratian. We saw Hamer make ground earlier. We obviously fancy these props against the Barrow defence. 10 minutes gone, 6 points to 2, Bradford lead. Getting dangerously close to that Barrow line. That time it's Wilkinson. He comes through like a forward, Wilkinson. Chunky figure at fullback for Bradford. And once more danger signs as they swing the ball wide. Last tackle though. Little kick through, and it's a kick through. Looks to his linesman.
It'll be a try to Carl Fairbank, that, I don't... Oh, no, well, he said it's not, but...
No try given. A double movement is given there by referee Steve Cummings.
Well, I think what he's given there, actually, Martin, he said he's played the ball forwards to himself, and he's obviously said there was a marker there. Whether there was or not, we wouldn't know, but definitely... Maybe we've got a chance to watch this now. Get ready, Carl Fairbank, quickly spotting. He's saying there's no marker, puts the ball through, and there'll be a lot of discussion about that one. Certainly Tony Marchant thought it was a try.
Well, a controversial decision there, given by the linesman. Steve Cummings absolutely right to consult with his linesman in that situation. And right now we have the Barrow prop who's firing the ball back there at the Bradford defence. You can't take your eyes off this game for a minute. These Kendall brothers, that was Dave Kendall there, and number 8. Handy-looking props, and this guy Moses Karasoma, the number 11, together with Roy Haggerty, Pat Traynor again there, and this is good stuff from Barrow. There's Haggerty, tries the long pass, there's the other Kendall brother. Well, it comes to nothing in the end. The ball's still bobbing about. There's a chance now for Bradford to get it back. Well, there's Gerald Caudle there that time. My goodness, you can't take your eyes off this match for a second.
They just needed to keep that possession while they were down there. Great football they played there. They need to turn the 12-man deficit of Bradford into points, because that's what's going to show later on the board. They need to get those points there now, Barrow.
Yes, indeed. Bradford's playmaker John Pendlebury, remember, number 13, he's in the sin bin. That gives an ideal opportunity for Barrow from the 3rd division, remember, playing these cup fighters. There's a big space opening up for Grayson, and it's a great little pass by Grayson as well. Well, there's Noble. Well, the ball was swinging ominously to the right here. It's number 7, Neil Summers. That time the kick comes in from Caudle. Bit of a rugby union ploy, that cross kick. Far too strong, though.
I think they lost a little bit of a chance. Carl Fairbank did a good switch there, but Neil Summers couldn't finish the job off, and Gerald Caudle on the last tackle didn't have too many options, but not a good cross kick.
So Barrow breathe again, but what a cup tie this is turning out to be. Barrow would dearly love to this man Haggerty to come up with a big game, but really they just cannot afford to make these mistakes in their own half. They're making so many mistakes, and really Bradford are able to release the ball, as they did there to Neil Summers. Neil Summers, who's looking dangerous there. Eventually Cairns just about hangs on to him, but there's the Paul Medley, the second rower. He's a danger man, likes to run from deep, doesn't like it getting those positions, Medley. Dangerous moments these for Barrow, as Marchant's still going, but unwise there really, because it looked like he was tackled wrong.
Well, both his elbows went to ground there. Referee Cummins quite on the spot, and a little bit of a smile there with Tony Marchant. He knew if he just bobbed up there, it would have been a try. A wide grin, and there we're seeing Gary Westcott just getting a bit of a treatment.
Seems to be okay, and it means as a result of that mistake by Tony Marchant, or attempt maybe to get away with something, it gives Barrow a chance to put in a relieving kick, which they do just below our commentary box here. Great atmosphere here tonight, Ron. It's because it's a real traditional rugby league ground, isn't it, with a crowd breathing down the players' necks.
Well, as I said, with the success Workington have already had in the Cup so far this season, knocking out First Division opponents, I'm sure Barrow feel they can do likewise, because there's great tradition up here in Cumbria, and the way they've set off, apart from that one slip with bad tackling against John Hamer, they've given a good account of themselves so far.
And no one more so than the Kendall brothers. There's Haggerty. Can be a bit careless with the ball from time to time, Roy Haggerty, but his experience will be needed tonight. There's Moses Karasoma. He's always played well when we've seen Barrow on Sportscast. Quarter of an hour gone in this first half. They've got another 5 minutes with Pendlebury off the park. Choosing to try and spread the ball across the pitch at the moment, Barrow. Kick comes in there. It's not a bad little kick. A bad kick at all. Well, looked like an offside there, possibly. It's a knock-on given.
I think it was a knock on by Francis first off there. Whether it did eventually get into an offside position, I don't know, but that was good play by Conlon. I've been quite impressed with him so far. He's tackled very, very strongly, showed a bit of vision there, chip over the top, and Francis did well to clean it up in the end, but nevertheless, heading ball to Barrow, they put it in, they should get it out at their end.
Which indeed they do. They're not able to get the ball clear.
Well, they haven't actually
got it out.
It came out the side there, and Summers was quickly on it, so a bit of light relief there for Bradford Northern.
So Bradford still managing to make light of the fact that there's an appeal for an obstruction there, not given. Bradford still one man short and making light of that at the moment. They're still attacking, despite the fact it's 12 against 13. Remember, 12 experienced First Division men against 13 Third Division men. This is what we like to see in the cup tie. It's what makes the Silk Cup Challenge Cup the competition it is. Well, that slight injury Westwood had seems to have not affected him adversely there, and Bradford needing to be on their toes. This is tremendous play by Barrow. Nice little run through by Tony Kay, the experienced man, and eventually Neil Shaw held. And there's Haggerty again. To Shaw, he's on everything. It's the last tackle though. We'll see the kick come in here possibly. Cairns is waiting. There's the kick. It's a big high one. Bounces back on the Barrow side. Cairns has got it. Well, it was the last tackle because well, he took a kick at that. But Wilkinson's got a very chunky body in between the ball and David Cairns' boot there. It's a brave fullback, Wilkinson.
He went down well for that one on that occasion there. As you said, good job he's got a little bit of beef on Wilkie, because he might have felt that one a bit more otherwise. But Barrow have put some good football in so far and look capable of breaking down this Bradford Northern defence, albeit just 12 Bradford Northern defenders there at the moment.
Still 6 points to 2, remember. Bradford Northern leading. And what's at stake here is a third round tie, a place in the last 8 of the cup, and a very winnable tie, I would say, too, at Halifax. Clearly more winnable for Bradford than it is for Barrow. They would have preferred a home tie. There's Pat Traynor, who's already nearly made up for his mistake. He can't be held wholly responsible for the John Hamer try, but certainly he was amongst the culprits.
He was just one of 5, wasn't he?
Indeed, so Barrow will certainly need to be on their toes. John Pendlebury is waiting to come back, and he'll be back in the fray, and that really will be bad news for Barrow. He should be back in about a minute now. So 1 minute for Barrow to make hay while the sun shines. Kick will come in there. Pendlebury has returned to the fray now, the Bradford number 13.
They'll have been pleased with that. They've held out Bradford Northern there. Pendlebury just coming back on the field, and he'll be proud of himself that they haven't conceded any extra points, I presume.
Yes, certainly it would have been a blow to him had they conceded the points, but there's the man, Pendlebury, just back on the field and taking that ball from the scrum. There he is, 10 minutes in the sin bin for that offence on Pat Traynor. And, well, they're harrying Wilkinson, but he's a slippery customer.
Well, he was going backwards, but eventually he spun himself out of the tackle and came forward another 5 or 6 yards. But David Cairns was going upstairs again there. I think he needs to get down a little lower, otherwise he could get himself in the spot of bother.
And they really do need to tackle hard on these Bradford props, Gratian and Hamer. We've seen Hamer score a try. There's Pendlebury with a charge down kick that time. And it looks like... well, he's taking a kick there on.
I think it was David Kendall went down there. There was a bit of fly hacking going on. Tony Marchant just trying to get the ball clear there, and whether he's just caught him somewhere, we'll have to wait and see. But good position now, this for Barrow. They've 6 tackles to take it into the Northern 25, and they'll be looking to put it on. But the referee has said he's not too bad, obviously, so they're going to play on without him. But whether David Kendall thinks much about that, I don't know, but the game goes on.
And we're midway through the first half. It's Kerosima who has the ball there. That's a very, very hard challenge, that one.
I think you'll find it, Tony Marchant, a little bit high there, and with what's just happened on the loose tackle there, referee Mr. Cummins pulling Marchant out. Can have a word with him. Let's keep it down. And as I was saying about David Keynes just a little bit earlier, you cannot afford to go high. You can get sent off quite easily these days for it, so it seemed earlier in the season. But I'm sure Mr. Cummins, who's on top of the job at the moment, is going to stand for none of that. He's made it quite clear. And of course, if Neil Shaw can put 2 points on the board, Barrow will be happy side.
It's Neil Shaw, the Barrow loose forward, who has the chance to cut this deficit from 6 points to 4. Well, there's Roy Haggerty. So Neil Shaw with the chance to cut the deficit from 6 points to 2 to 6 points to 4. Here he is, the kicker. Loose forward Neil Shaw. Sponsored by the Co-op Barrow. He'll be hoping this one pays dividends. Here we go. Neil Shaw. It's not a bad kick. Well, he got the length, Ron, just a little bit wide.
Be a bit disappointed with that because easily got the length, just a little bit wide of that right-hand post, and looks as though they've got the wind, and that's what they want.
So that's Chris Honey, the Barrow standoff. Well, they're striking at the ball there at the play the ball. Illegally, says Steve Cummings, the referee. It'll be another free kick for Barrow. And a chance to put some more pressure on Bradford. They're certainly holding their own midway through the first half, and they're holding their own, the Barrow side.
Yes, it's a little bit interesting that we've got David Kendall went off. He got that kick just now, and we've got Sean Morrow on the field. So, whilst the referee didn't think it was too serious, poor old David Kendall has them.
Well, here's his brother, that's Gary Kendall, driving that ball in hard. Barrow now in the Bradford 25. These fans below us will go absolutely wild if Barrow can make something of this. And it's a great position for them, not far from the Bradford line. There's the experienced man, Roy Haggerty, who have done maybe with, well, they're driving it a little bit nearer to the post to set up a move with David Cairns. That's the move there. It's Tony Kay, Roy Haggerty's teammate at St Helens, before moving to Barrow here. That's a lovely little move there. That's David Cairns. That's Haggerty. That's Neil Shaw. He's over. Neil Shaw has scored. Neil Shaw takes the ball from Haggerty. He scores. What a tremendous try for Barrow. And what a marvellous moment for the third division side here.
Well, just watch this. This is great play. They move the ball across the line. They missed Shaw out first time. Keynes doing a bit of a run round, it would look as though, with Chris Honey. Honey puts the ball back inside the Keynes. Now watch this ball there. In comes Haggerty, steps off that foot. That's where he's dangerous. The support's there from Shaw, and Shaw's still got to get there, but he's going to get there. Great try by the loose forward, and Barrow are right back in it.
Indeed, back in it, and Neil Shaw has the chance to put Barrow in the lead. 8 points to 6. He's the man who scored the try. He's in everything for Barrow. Scored the try for them, kick the penalty. It'll be Barrow 8 points, Neil Shaw 8 points should he kick this. Wasn't far off with the kick a moment or two ago. He's kicked that one.
We didn't need that telling. The crowd told us of that, and what a marvellous start for the loose forward Neil Shaw. 8 points to 6, and Barrow look equal to Bradford Northern at the moment.
So 15 minutes to go in this first half, 25 minutes gone. And 8 points to 6, the third division side lead the first division Bradford.
It looks as though John Pendlebury's having to leave the field now. Let's hope it's not a repeat of his broken jaw. or maybe it's just that David Hobbs is going to come on the field because they need him.
Well, David Hobbs, he had an operation at the weekend to have a little bit of bone removed from his elbow. He's coming onto the pitch now to replace John Pendlebury. Well, I thought a little bit of a risk after a weekend operation, but clearly feeling that the captain, David Hobbs, is needed to steady Bradford down, because at the moment they're in real danger of being overrun by the third division side, or if not overrun, at least given the fright of their lives. They're 8-6 down after going into that relatively easy 6-0 lead early on. Huge roar goes up every time Gary Westwood, the left winger, gets the ball, but that time really he could have done with coming inside, because he's quite easily pulled into touch there. A little bit of third division inexperience maybe there, Ron.
Well, he could have gone down when Gerald Cordell just got an arm twist on him early on, but he thought he was going to fight out of that tackle. The supporting defenders came in for Bradford Northern, and they soon overpowered him, put him into touch.
And of course they're in a tremendous position here, Summers to Marchant. And that time it's Darryl Shelford, the number 3. There's Carl Fairbank, one of these big Fairbank brothers from the farming family in the Yorkshire Dales. Neil Summers, a lot of play comes from Neil Summers. There's Paul Gratian, whose dad of course is still playing rugby league for Batley. We've seen him on Sportscast this season. It's our live Monday night match, and what a cracking tie we've got here. Bradford really trying to pull everything out, and they're taking chances to, that was on the last tackle, so it's a handover to Barrow. Tony Kay and Aaron Conlon looking dangerous, but Tony Kay again doing exactly the same as Gary Westwood did a moment or two ago, Rob.
That's a terrible mistake. We're getting another substitution on the far side. It looks as though Sean Morrow's going off and Kendall's coming back on, so obviously that was a blood bin there. Look at the sign that went up, so that's great. And Barrow just look to settle down there now, and they've got away that one lightly. They'll have to stop taking the ball into touch like this, because they need to take their 6 tackles and put the pressure on Bradford Northern.
Well, good news for Barrow that Gary Kendall is back, because these two Kendall brothers, Dave and Gary, looked quite impressive in this opening half for Barrow. If they can hold this lead till half-time, or even improve on it, well, we could be in for a real shock here. Always difficult for teams from Lancashire and Yorkshire to come up to Cumbria, as I think you'll confirm from your playing days, Ron.
I don't think anybody, even these days, really relishes coming up here, because if you win the game and you get a few points on the board, they're certainly tough characters from this part of the world.
Well, there he is, that rest in the blood bin's done Dave Kendall the world of good. There's David Cairns. Oh, the ball just falling out of Chris Honey's hands there, with Aaron Conlon managing to hold on. The tackling is tough, the crowd breathing down these Bradford defenders' necks. There's Westwood, another bit of a prepared move there with Kerosima and Westwood. Cairns' little kick ahead didn't quite work, and Neil Summers is able to gather that. Could have been an inch or two higher, could have been interesting, that, Ron.
Did well Summers to get up for that. The idea was right from Cairns, not quite well executed, but they're tackling well now, and they're putting a lot of pressure on Bradford Northern. They can keep them down there and keep a tight defensive line, because people like Medley and Marchant can go from quite a distance, and they've got to do their tackling job. But they seem to overcome those early nerves and have got themselves well in for a good victory now.
It's a long way for victory, of course, but certainly they're giving Bradford a heck of a fight here. 8 points to 6, remember. Barrow from the 3rd division leading Bradford from the 1st division, and it's 8 points, for which they can thank Neil Shaw. He scored all 8. Penalty goal plus a try and a conversion.
Well, that's it, and he's well in line for the man of the match, perhaps as early as this, and against Keighley he took 2 out of the 3 man of the match awards, so what great form that lad's in.
Definitely got a taste for it. There's 10 minutes to go in this first half. Half an hour gone. And Well, it's Barrow's head and ball. They should get the ball out. It's shot out on the Bradford side. They've already lost one against the head, and they can't afford to lose too many. You've got to look back really to the 1950s for the glory days for Barrow, and how they would dearly love to see a bit of glory returning. And there's Karasoma, I think you probably pronounce it. Conlon.
Well, I think the last time Barrow went was in '67. They played Featherstone over, so both sides are still in the cup. 25 years. What an anniversary for that.
Well, of course, Featherstone do have to overcome Castleford in the next round. We'll have a look at that draw in more detail at half-time. But I can tell you that the two teams tonight are playing for a place in the last 8 of the Silk Cup Challenge Cup, Rugby League's Premier Trophy, and they'll face Halifax in that third round tie. The quarter-finals. This is the stage of the cup when they start getting the sniff of those Twin Towers. It's a cold, wintry February evening here at Craven Park. Neil Shaw really will have to tackle better than that, Ron.
Well, that was rather a silly tackle by Shaw there. He went upstairs with not a lot of conviction. In fact, it was a good job there wasn't too much conviction, because it was very, very high, and you can't do that. But what a break on the far side. This is Fairbank. Fairbank's looking for the support. He's got it on the inside. He finds Medley. The ball just on the ground. Great cover tackling there, but that just goes to show how you've got to keep your defensive line.
I think that's the difference, Ron, between the two sides, is that Barrow need to get closer to the Bradford line. Bradford have got the speed merchants. They've got the people like Fairbank and Medley and Marchant who can run in tries for long distance. They can't afford to relax for a moment. Has to be 80 minutes concentration.
Oh, it certainly does, and I think we were talking before the game, and I was talking about 60 minutes. This is very what another marvellous break.
Well, of course, Bradford have to concentrate as well. You cannot take your eyes off this for a moment. Hand over the commentary to Ron, and you can be sure that somebody will break through. Tremendous game, Ron.
Well, I think Barrow can be proud of themselves. They're in the lead, 8 points to 6. We're 5 minutes from the interval, and they look equal to Bradford, don't they?
Well, the great thing is when Bradford do drive the ball at them hard, they do look like taking control. Barrow run it straight back at them, and with this crowd behind them, and with the incentive of a place in the quarter-final of the Silk Cup Challenge Cup, certainly players like Roy Haggerty there will be, well, you won't need to be fired up or motivated. Great little pass over the top there by David Cairns. This is Karasoma. He passes it out to the, well, Nick James on the wing there. Lovely pass by Karasoma. Great pass before it by David Cairns. Barrow now in full flight, swinging the ball wide. Haggerty again, trainer linking up. It's the last tackle. I think they've forgotten it was the last tackle there, Ron.
Well, I think they might have done unfortunate there as well, because they had the overlap on the outside. They had 3 or 4 men there, and they really did have an opportunity. But what great play on the far side, on the main stand side. That ball of Karasoma's round the man to Mick James. I thought Mick James might have kicked over the top of Wilkinson. Wilkie didn't turn as quick as he used to, and I fancy James might have run the line very closely if he could have chipped over the top.
So, another fright for Bradford Northern against their third division opponents.
Just lacking a little bit of discipline here. That's 2 penalties given away. They're taking the pressure off Bradford Northern. They're putting pressure on themselves. They'll want to keep this lead until the interval now, and that's the worst way to try and hang on to the lead, is keep giving penalties. All of a sudden, from deep inside the Bradford Northern 25, they're just outside their own, and 6 tackles to come from this big Bradford Northern side.
Yes, Barrow under pressure once more. I noticed David Hobbs there, Ron, giving Bradford a real talking to. He was lecturing virtually every player in turn while they were taking that kick.
Well, whether David Hobbs came on for the injured John penalty, we don't know. It could have been a tactical change. Didn't see John get any injury, but we'll have to see, because Bradford Northern haven't got into gear yet. We saw that one break just now, but they've got to put a lot more of those together.
Well, here is Hobbs trying to lead from the front. The Bradford Northern captain leading by example to Neil Summers. Forward pass there to Fairbank.
Well, that was quite clearly forward there, and that's just showing what's going on. Neil Summers should have settled it down. There was never any chance, even if he got the ball to Fairbank. Fairbank would have been stood still. He would have been possibly tackled by 2 or 3 players. Absolutely no need at all to pass it, and they've got to settle things down, just like the break earlier on. on the far side. They should have settled it down and taken the last 2 tackles on the Barrow line, but great action here so far.
Just 5 minutes to go in this first half. If Barrow can hold on to this 8-6 lead, well, it'll be a very worried Bradford side, whom Peter Fox will be talking to in the Bradford dressing room at half-time. Here's Cairns once more. Cairns has had a tremendous first half. And right now, Conlon gets the ball away as well. He does look good this centre, and here's a real chance for James. A little bit careless there. They've got away with it though. Cairns has the ball again. He wants to steady it now. To Kay. To Kendall. Well, too much for Westwood to do there, I should suspect. Still gets the ball away though. It's still going. It's Kay once more. It's Kay once more. Gets the ball inside to Karasova. Tremendous action here at Craven Park, Barrow. Haggerty with a drop attempt. He's kicked it. It went over. Well, Neil Summers, he took an eternity to signal that one, Ron.
Well, that was absolutely incredible play there by Barrow once again. They've come away with a 1 point. We've said it so often on these Monday night games. Will this 1 point count? Just watch this. Shaw's there, straight up to Haggerty. No one comes to him. Whoops, over we go, 1 point. That could be the vital one, which takes him into the third round.
Well, I didn't know whether that gone over or not. Neil Summers was looking at it, and he seemed to look at it for about 5 minutes there. Eventually, put that hand up, signalled a roar from the crowd below us, largely the Barrow fans. Steve Cummings, the referee. Well, I think I wrongly identified the referee as Neil Summers. Neil Summers is the Bradford Northern scrum half. Of course, the referee is Steve Cummings of Widnes. Had a superb first half. There's just 3 minutes to go till half-time.
I think it's the excitement as though you're a Cumbrian there, Martin, but there again, I suppose you're trying to get somewhere away from Swinton.
Well, indeed, we're not on the best of seasons, but really we all like to see the underdogs doing well, and aren't they doing well at the moment? And those Kendall boys and David Cairns. Oh, David Cairns having a tremendous first half, but he's let that one spill. Bit of over-eagerness there, Ron. I think the excitement really getting to David Cairns.
Well, I wasn't sure. There was a little bit of obstruction on the far side there when the supporting player was just checked a little bit. But there again, David Cairns made a marvellous break, and they are ripping holes in this Bradford Northern defence at the moment. And I'm sure Peter Fox and David Hobbs will have plenty to say at the interval.
So 2 minutes for Bradford Northern to try and claw back this 3 points that Barrow lead them at the moment. Barrow from the 3rd division, but this is the sort of thing they'll have to watch. Fair back to Marchant. Marchant's got speed. They really need to get back there. Pat Traynor made the tackle. Marchant will play it to himself. They'll swing the ball to this right-hand side. Speed there, don't forget, in the shape of Gerald Caudle, the former British Rugby Union international. We have a cracker here at Craven Park, and no mistake, as Bradford, with the minutes ticking away as we go towards that half-time hooter, trying to claw back this lead that Barrow have taken. 3-point lead. The kick will go in there from Hobbs. It's a nice little kick. Traynor gathers it, but he drops it. It's a knock-on given, and this is real danger because Bradford Northern will have the put-in.
Well, that's a terrible bit of bad fortune there for Traynor. He went down very bravely. He's knocked the ball forward. Looked as though it could have been possibly in an offside position by the Barrow player. Picked it up, but otherwise there's been a play on the Bradford Northern. But it's head and ball to Bradford now, and they'll be desperate to win this one and try and get a score before the interval.
Real danger here, right on the Barrow line. Bradford Northern have 6 tackles. 6 tackles and 1 minute. That's the situation as we approach half-time. A little bit of injury time. They're using the forwards. There's the try scorer, John Hamer. And that time it's Honey and Shaw clinging on for dear life to Hamer. Forwards again, it's Medley who scored. It's Medley. A real blow. No doubt about the try, Barrow disputing it. But what a blow to Barrow just before half-time.
Well, that was terrible misfortune for Barrow there. Poor Pat Traynor missed it. We'll see this one again here. Just straightforward play. Hobbs pops the ball up, going high, you see there, missing it. Well, was there a double movement? We can't see from here whether the first one was over the try line. There was certainly a double movement there, but I suggest with the position there of referee Steve Cummings that the first time we put the ball down, it was already over the line. But that's a terrible tragedy for Barrow, right on the half-time hooter. What a marvellous first half for them, but to concede 6 points like that when Pat Shaner went down so bravely, it really is an injustice.
Well, it's the way it often happens, sadly. Of course, David Hobbs, there's no problem with a kick like that. That's the scoreline, just approaching half-time. We can have a look again, Ron, and let's see.
Well, this will be a great angle for us coming in here now. Here's Medley just coming in. Well, it looks as though he was over the try line. First time over, so referee Mr. Cummings saying there's no problem at all. And look at that, it's already half-time. What a tragedy for Barrow, but all credit to Bradford. They were up against it right through, and that's what happens. They really got to stick with it.
Well, there are the scorers. We've got Neil Shaw. He's had a tremendous first half for Barrow. 2 goals and a try for Neil Shaw.
That just goes to show what Cumbria has got to offer in professional rugby league, and let's hope they can keep building on it and get back to the great days.
Well, that's what Barrow will be trying to do. They're back on the pitch there. There's Conlon, the centre, who's had a tremendous first half, really, for Barrow. And very much a tragedy that they went behind to that Paul Medley try just before half-time after the Roy Haggerty drop goal had put them in with such a great chance.
Well, there's the Bradford Northern side there now, and very, very important that Peter Fox and David Hobbs have got through to each and every one of those players on the field, because otherwise they won't be in a local derby against Halifax in the quarter-finals. It's very, very important, but Barrow, likewise, they'll want to give a great account of themselves. There's the score, Barrow 9, Bradford Northern 12, and as they say in the game, still all to play for, Martin.
Yes, indeed, set up for a great second half here at Craven Park. It's been a cracker in the first. Just a shame, really, for the people who like the underdogs that Barrow couldn't hold on for a moment or two more. Always get that roar when Gary Westwood, the left winger, takes the ball in. And there he was receiving that pass from Haggerty. Oh, there's a bad mistake, but they get away with it. It's the Barrow hooker, Paul Crary. And there's the kick from Neil Shaw. That's not a bad kick from Shaw. Had a good first half.
That was a great kick, that. He's put it down the line. He's turned Bradford Northern, and that's what they want to do. They want to pump up there. But the trouble with a great kick like that, it's invariably head and ball and possession to the other side, and that just takes a little bit of the gloss off it.
Yes, we've seen Bradford control these scrums, really. And Wilkinson there. Just a half break by Wilkinson.
That was a clear case of Bradford Northern there. The player went down, Summers, and no support there. One-man rugby, a little bit better support there, but they need to get the ball wider and get it away from there and move Barrow about.
Well, that was Hobbs to Summers trying to work something in the centre of the park, and there's the try scorer Paul Medley. Real speed merchant in the second row. Medley scored lots of tries for Leeds and Halifax, and here's a chance for... chance for Bradford. Richard Francis there on the left wing, two fairly fast wingers in Caudle and Francis.
Well, I don't know what he was trying to do there, but that was a terrible kick. It really was from McGowan. Left-footed boots right up in the air, the ball dead, and he just looked devoid of ideas. He knew he had no support there, but why didn't he run at the Barrow defence? He must fancy his chance a little bit, surely.
Well, the linesman's come on. He's given something happened off the ball, obviously, because Steve Cummings there has given well, the linesman has spotted Kendall in a situation there on.
Well, I wonder whether David Kendall has said a few words. I'm not sure, but we've got Mr. Brown there who's not too pleased about it. And where's it going to be? It's an instant right back up the field. So, well, Well, that's where they're going to give the penalty. And obviously a little bit of a shoulder charge there 5 minutes ago. Well, maybe 3 or 4 anyway.
I've heard of late challenges, but that's, that's ridiculous. There they go, Neil Summers with the kick. Good kick by Summers, takes Bradford onto the 25 line. And, well, they conceded a try early on in the first half. They won't want to concede a try early in the second half.
Well, they conceded early penalties in the first half as well, and they've already done that now. And I'm sure Paul Kavanagh has told them not to do that, but if they're still doing it, they'll pay the penalty.
Well, there's Gratian. David Hobbs, the captain, with Wilkinson linking up from full-back. Barrow have some tackling to do now. It could so easily slip away from them if they concede a try, as they have done to Brian Noble.
Well, that happened again there, no marker in there, and they paid the penalty for that. It looked as though it was a bit tight on the old movement over the line there again, but when we see this one, you'll see exactly what I mean. Just watch this coming in now. There's Wilkinson, no marker in there. Shaw made the tackle, in he goes. Kerasoma can't quite take him down. Now watch Noble. Noble ducks under the tackles, gets in there. Well, Mr. Cummins right on the spot. That's another try, but really you've got to tighten up in those marker situations, because the man can play the ball to himself if there's no one marking on, and that's exactly what happened there, and that could be the nail in the coffin for Barrow.
Certainly danger signs there for Barrow. It could really slip away from them, and we could see a landslide now, because that will really have knocked the heart out of them. It's David Hobbs who kicks the goal, and that's looking a good deal healthier now for Bradford Northern at 18 points to 9. The fans trying to motivate Barrow, they're getting behind them, but 18 points to 9 for the First Division side looks, well, rather healthy. Just 5 minutes gone in the second half, and we've seen it happen so often with teams from the lower division. They play really well. They take First Division sides to the cleaners for 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and then concede tries like that. And I think, well, not a bad kick there from the kickoff. I think David Kendall has to take a certain, sorry, not David Kendall, Gary Kendall, his brother, has to take a certain amount of the blame for that try. Again, it's a case of a player going in a little bit high, Ron.
Well, I think you've got to get down low. I've mentioned it quite a few times. I know it's easy to say it up here, but when you look at big fellows, you sometimes think you can take them down easy upstairs. But once they dip the shoulder and that upper body strength starts using its full force, it really does take effect. There's only one place to stop them, that's down around the lower leg.
And an indication really of the way Bradford have been playing this match by the fact that all 3 tries from forwards, Medley, Hamer and Noble, all in this fearsome Bradford pack. Barrow still trying to play rugby. That's a beautiful little pass there. There's Conlon, the centre again there. It's Neil Shaw with the kick ahead. It's quite a strong wind in the faces of Barrow in the second half. Neil Shaw makes a good tackle on Wilkinson. There's Francis, another speed merchant in the Bradford Northern ranks. Fairbank gets the ball away. Marchant took that one nicely. He's got a haircut like you, Marchant, Ron.
Well, it's the Castleford link.
Well, asking for an interception, that one the interception made, but unfortunately Chris Honey couldn't hold on to the ball.
It's funny you should mention Tony Marchant, the haircut, because I was talking to Tony the other day. I said, I just don't understand it, Tony. When you get to my age, you wish you had some, but he seems to like it. It's the style that goes there now, and he's done a good job for Bradford Northern these days, scoring a few tries and tightening up the defence for Peter Fox.
Yes, it's been a problem position for Bradford Northern stand-up half. That man Tony Marchant there, well, seems to have solved the problem, but Conlon, that looked like a forward pass there. Conlon in the left centre position for Barrow is having a tremendous game, making some marvellous tackles. Well, that's a knock-on. Medley spilled that ball. Not the safest pair of hands in rugby league, Paul Medley.
Incredible that, because you could actually see Medley take his eye off the ball as he came for it there. He just looked up and the ball went forward, and that's the result. Head and ball to Barrow, and let's hope they can put some football together again.
Yeah, Barrow really do need to get back into the game at this stage, and not with passes like that, really. You could see what they were trying to do. It was for Conlon on the burst, but Chancellor would have thought that run.
He's put a lot of great effort in, Conlon, as you said, and was keen on his tackling very early in the game, and he's got himself involved, which very often players wide out don't do, and been quite impressed with him.
Well, that time it was Gerald Cordell coming inside. It's pretty incessant Bradford pressure at the moment. There's Neil Summers. Well, once more these forwards. It's gone backwards, so that's okay. It's Gratian with the ball now. Well, Hobbs let that one go, and that man Conlon's there again to snap up the loose ball. Westwood will maybe run this ball. Yes, he tries to, but never going to get very far there. There's Haggerty, all his experience will be needed. The game is in Sevilla. Yes, Noble rightly penalised there.
I don't see the point in that. Brian Noble should know better. That's another 6 tackles they've got to make now, assuming Barrow put the ball safely into touch, and he knows Roy Haggerty's experienced pedal. If he doesn't get off him, he's going to make a meal of it and get the penalty, so you've got to get away.
Yes, Brian Noble. Well, the ball's spilled there, and once more it's another penalty to Barrow. Ball stealing given there by referee Cummings.
John Hamer, the culprit there. You could see it quite clearly from up at our distance up in the sky here, Martin. And that's silly. That's Bradford. They've got on top in the game now. They're leading by 18 points to 9. 2 silly penalties like that, and all of a sudden, there they are. Well, I was just going to say back in their own 25, but Neil Shaw, he has put it safely into touch, but still Bradford Northern under pressure.
Yes, there is more of a breeze against Barrow than you sometimes think. We looked at the flags there, and now the crowd are getting behind Barrow. They sense possibly that this is really a last chance for Barrow to get back into this game if they don't get into it soon. That should be back to 1. Back to 1 is given. 10 minutes gone in the second half. So, should Barrow get... There's Haggerty. Well, I'm afraid they'll try and remain dispassionate, but almost willing Barrow to get back into this game, because it will set up a marvellous finish here. There's Chris Honey. Couldn't get that ball away to Conlon, who was running at the angle there. That time it's out to this side to Tony Kay. You say the crowd doing their desperate best to try and... Here's Conlon again. Conlon's looked like a man who's likely to score. Gets the ball inside now. Well, just stepped into touch there.
Well, that was very, very dangerous there. Bradford Northern just seemed to relax. David Cairns nearly opened them up, and Conlon nearly got into the corner. Just put his foot in there because he threw the ball inside, and there was still a chance for McJames. But Bradford Northern, of course, have won the scrum now. And head and ball situation again. But Barrow have got to be disciplined and tackle them and keep them near that
David
corner
Cairns has taken a knock there, which would be a blow for Barrow. Should Cairns there, number 7 and captain, be injured. He's sort of limping back along the touchline side, David Cairns. His tackling is a lot better now from Barrow. They really do need to keep Bradford pinned back. But Brian Noble, experienced campaigner, takes the ball from play the ball there. And Neil Summers will get good ground with this, because there is this stiff breeze behind Bradford in the second half. Barrow didn't use it a great deal. It's nicely picked up there by Westwood. Bradford caught offside there. Quick tap, well done. Bradford caught offside again. that time, well, it was a wise decision really to take the quick tap there, Ron, because there is this breeze against them, and we saw Neil Shaw didn't get much ground on the last one.
Well, quite correct that as well, because they weren't back 10 and the extra penalty, they got 6 or 7 yards. Neil Shaw's found a better touch now, but Bradford had tightened up their defence a little bit in the second half. I'm sure that's what Peter Fox was telling them at half time, but they've still got plenty to do. Barrow got the fire stoked up still.
Well, those Kendall boys are doing well at prop, and here's Chris Honey. Here's Honey, gets it off to Conlon. Well, they let the ball go. It's good stuff from Barrow, there's no doubt about that. They're 18-9 down, remember. Neil Shaw to Tony Kay. Oh, Tony Kay was looking for his winger James coming inside there. Oh dear. Well, what a disaster. Scrum's been given.
A little bit unfortunate that. I felt they took the wrong option bringing the ball right here. They had Bradford stretch on the far side. I thought they would have run it across on Conlon's wing. He's looked the danger man. I think Keresoma was running on the dummy run there, and he didn't expect the ball to come to him. They wanted the ball wider, but a little bit of a chance lost. But they've shown there's still plenty of fight there, and this game is not finished yet.
Penalised though for an offence at the scrum, which is not good news for Barrow, because Bradford do have the win behind them. There's the score: Barrow 9, Bradford Northern 18. 9 points in it. It means that a try and a goal for Barrow is desperately needed to get them back in this game. They really must concentrate, they really must tackle. They can't afford to concede another try, because I feel if they do concede another try to Bradford, their heads will really go down and we could be looking for 30.
Well, that's always a danger in games like this, but there's plenty of fire in this Barrow side yet. They've given a great account of themselves.
There's Noble looking to pass the ball to his captain Hobbs. Vastly experienced hooker Brian Noble, on the fringe of the international scene a year or two back. Quarter of an hour gone in this second half. 25 minutes for Barrow from the 3rd division to dump Bradford of the 1st division out of the cup. There's Pat Traynor. Well, he escapes the first tackle, but Gerald Cordell did enough to delay him. That's a good chase really by Bradford, because they've kept Barrow back in their own 25.
That's the problem now with this very strong wind at Bradford Northern's backs. They can pump it up there, and if they get their defensive line in good order, Barrow have got all sorts of problems to come back 60 or 70 yards.
They're certainly not going to go down without a fight, Barrow. Well, Kendall's been penalised there, I think, for taking a punch at McGowan.
Well, Gary Kendall, rather silly there, because he was just being held on a little bit longer perhaps, and just swung his arm loose, and the referee said that's a penalty to Bradford Northern. And well, interesting that David Hobbs isn't kicking a goal here. I thought he might have just taken a bit of time up, but they obviously feel they've got the measure of the game now, and they're going to go for the try. So Neil Summers is your man.
So they're trying that move again. There's Neil Summers with all the forwards lined up. It goes to Hamer once more, Gratian once more. Using these two props, Gratian and Hamer. Hamer, of course, scored that try early on. All the Bradford tries scored by forwards. There's Hamer, the other prop. Move on here because they've worked it closer to the post. Fairbank, 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 Fairbank. Not given, just short of the line there. Brian Noble felt that Fairbank had gone over, raised his arms aloft, clearly hadn't. Offside given there to play the ball. This time I think Ron, they will go for the 2 points.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see if they do or not, and referee Mr. Cummings having none of that. He said that Traynor dived on the ball, it was played there. They're saying they were behind the line. Mr. Cummings having nothing to do with it. Roy Haggerty's most probably been about longer than Mr. Cummings, but he's the man in charge. And as you say, David Hobbs going to take the time, going to take the 2 points, and 20 points to 9 makes it a little bit as though Bradford Northern have got this in the bag now.
So David Hobbs with a chance to increase Bradford's lead, which he does, 20 points to 9. So that means the crowd on this side not pleased with that at all. They see the tie slipping away from Barrow. Not been a sparkling performance by Bradford Northern, but assuming they keep that lead, Ron, we'll have to say it's been a professional performance.
Well, any win's a good win away in the cup, and I'm sure that's what Peter Fox will want at the end of the day. He'll want the results, and if they get it, they'll have deserved it. And what a great quarter-final that'll be then. Halifax at home to Bradford Northern from home.
Still, for us romantics, we still perhaps sense that Barrow might get back, at least get another try against Bradford Northern. It's certainly not over yet. We've got, well, we're not even midway through the second half yet. We've got more than 20 minutes to go. There's Hobbs. He's the captain. His presence certainly has helped Bradford Northern into this position that they're in, and they're chasing these kicks well. That was a bad little run there by trainer, the fullback.
I think the Barrow supporters are suggesting that Bradford Northern might have been a little bit offside there.
Well, certainly you do clutch at straws when you see your team possibly on the way out of the Challenge Cup. And not if Chris Honey has anything to say. That's a beautiful little pass by Honey to Kendall. On the halfway line. Neil Shaw, little kick ahead. A bad little kick. It makes Wilkinson turn, which is the important thing. But they do need to chase. There's Shaw chasing his own kick. Doesn't make the tackle though. Still, it puts Bradford back down on their own 25 line. Problem being that with the kick and chase game, with Hobbs, obviously one of the reasons that Hobbs has been introduced into this battle, it makes it doubly hard for Barrow. We are now midway through the second half. It really is a all or bust situation now for Barrow. They must score soon to set up a fight. Of course, if they do score a try and a goal, it'll be just 5 points the margin, and that means that a try and a goal will win it for Barrow, but not if Bradford can run one in from long range. And this is what Gerald Caudle has every chance of doing now. Gerald Caudle, well, a tremendous tackle, because Caudle, as we know, Bradford have paid big money for him, and well, that could be the try. Yes, it is the try, and it was...
Darryl Shelford's gone in there very, very well. Trainer, a marvellous tackle there, but Shelford saw it and went from the acting half-back. Trainer saying he hit the flag. All he wants to know, just watch this again. Away he goes. Just keep going. Down it goes. The flag goes over afterwards, and it's no good point in there. Gary Westwood should have got round the back of Shelford, got involved, and that, I'm sure, is the final nail in the coffin.
I think probably it's all over now for Barrow. They've made a fight of it. Well, for 39.5 minutes, they looked at least the equal of Bradford Northern, but now we're seeing a bit of that First Division professionalism. And really, Gerald Caudle, I suppose, could have scored that himself, because if he'd played, there was no marker there, he could have played the ball to himself and gone over. Possibly a little bit of rugby union inexperience there on.
It really was a great tackle by fullback Trainer there, because Caudle, I felt, took the wrong move, because he ran away from his supporter in the centre of the field. He was going on his own, he fancied his chances, but if he hadn't scored there, I think Peter Fox might have said, what about your colleagues on the inside?
So Shelford scores the try anyway, and David Hobbs with the kick. Just goes wide. We can look at that try again, Ron.
Well, this is just Darryl Shelford going from the acting half-back. Caudle's obviously run a long distance from there. Great tackle by Trainer, but you see they're hanging on upstairs there. If Honey had gone down round the legs, I'm sure he'd done something for it.
Well, a couple of substitutions now on the Barrow side. A last desperate throw of the dice. Both Paul Burns and Sean Morrow joining the fray for Barrow. But Bradford Northern now leading 24 points to 9. That's Paul Medley. Well, the draw for the quarter-final of the Silk Cut Challenge Cup was made just before the kick-off here, so the Barrow fans, who such committed supporters here in Cumbria, had 40 minutes in which to dream of a tie against Halifax. But those dreams have all turned a little bit sour now for them. 24 points to 9 they trail. There's David Hobbs, the captain. Had an operation at the weekend and a bit of a gamble bringing him on, but it's proved worthwhile. Well, here's a tremendous run by Traynor. He's got some speed, Pat Traynor. Oh, hit men over here for Barrow. There's Haggerty. Haggerty's still going. Well, they haven't totally lost hope, Barrow. Neil Shaw. There's Chris Honey. Honey still. Lets the ball go. This time it's Westwood. Kicks ahead. Kicks ahead, Westwood. Not a bad kick. Wow.
Well, just goes to show there's still a bit of fight in this Barrow side yet, and Shelford, who scored at the other end, had to save the situation this time for Bradford at his own defensive end, and it was a good kick by Westwood. He turned it on the angle, and Shelford did very well to get back, but it just goes to show what a third division side can do, and they played some good football this night.
No doubt about that. Barrow have been one of the most impressive third division sides that we've seen. There are some good sides in that division. Quarter of an hour for Barrow to score 15 points. A point a minute needed for Barrow to snatch this tie from Bradford Northern. There's Haggerty once more. There's the Barrow hooker, Crary. It's David Cairns, Shaw. There's Conlon, back to Shaw, lovely little pass. Here's Shaw, that's his second try of the night. Richly deserved. The two men who've really been Barrow's best two men tonight, Aaron Conlon and Neil Shaw. With that try for Barrow, they're not dead yet. Many teams would completely give up the ghost. Here it is again, Ron.
Just watch this, great play again here. Cairns is in there again. He draws the man, puts Shaw in there. Shaw to Conlon. Conlon takes the two tacklers in. Then we've got Shaw back in again, steps inside Ian Wilkinson. Hamer comes across, can't make the tackle. Another 4 points for Shaw. What a great game. Watch it from behind now, we can see it again, coming across, little David Cairns is there again, look how he draws the man in, Shaw's there, quick hands, puts the ball on the Conlon, linking back on the back Shaw, steps inside Wilkinson, Hamer's never got a chance either. What a great try. Well, there's still fight there, can Shaw have the 2 points? Have we still got the final result yet?
Well, they're certainly putting on a show for the Sportscast audience tonight, Barrow. It's tremendous rugby by the Cumbrian challengers from the third division. And, well, you have to be a bit romantic and just hope that they can do it, because as Bradford Northern, it's been a solid performance, it's been a professional performance, but the romantics will want Neil Shaw to kick this one. He's just on wide, not far wide.
Well, the wind caught it a little bit at the end. He was obviously allowing for that, but it just came past the post. But the interesting part of that situation for me was watching David Hobbs talking with his charges behind the line. He knows it's not all over yet. And he's telling them quite clearly, we've got to do our job and carry on doing it. And a long time to go, it will seem to them now.
27 minutes gone in this second half, 13 minutes for Barrow to notch back 11 points. So it's, well, was that a knock-on?
No, I think it went by Westwood. He saw it was going to bounce Orkney and let it go by him in the end. But whilst they might not win the game, maybe the man of the match could come from either Conlon or from loose forward Neil Shaw, Marty.
Well, you're going to have a hard job to pick a man of the match from the Bradford side. As I say, first division professionalism has carried them through so far. But here's a lovely little break by Cairns. A tremendous break. He's still going, David Cairns. That's Tony Kay. Well, Tony Kay possibly not got the speed to outstrip the Bradford defence from that distance, but Barrow is still making a fight of it. There's Kendall. What a game they're giving us. Tremendous stuff here by Cairns. There he is once more. He's in everything.
I suppose he's going to have a chance on the man of the match as well as young David Cairns. You let me call him young as well.
So a little kick through by Kay. It's not a bad little kick. Wilkinson will be equal to it though. And more than equal to it, Wilkinson. He drives the ball back at Barrow. Tony Kay could have done with perhaps making something of that kick. The tackling's good now. Well, they've got the second win, Barrow. Their heads seem to go down for a bit. That's a nice little pass there by Hobbs. In fact, it was Fairbank there, slipped the ball away. And here he is again. And that's gone well forward. Well forward. So, maybe we still have a game on our hands. So, once more, Barrow still offside decision given there. Tony Kay, I think in a way Barrow would be a little bit upset at that offside decision because it looked like they were in a good position there with Tony Kay. But 6 more tackles though, should Neil Shaw find touch with this.
Well, there's Shaw. He's got to be one of the candidates for man of the match, surely, because it's 125 plus a medallion, and no one's done more than Neil Shaw to live for the Barrow cause this evening, and they still think they've got a chance. Look at the drive going in there from Kendall. Great play there by Gary Kendall. Can Barrow get another score now? Clary in at acting halfback, moving the ball there. Burns going for the line, and another score will really give us a great finish, Martin.
Indeed, great moments these for Barrow. There's David Cairns. He's orchestrating everything. There's the substitute, Sean Morrow. 10 minutes to go. 11 points to get. David Cairns, Roy Haggerty. Always a danger. Haggerty will slip that ball. Bradford clearly alive to that. Pin his arms back. David Cairns, Neil Shaw. Oh, what a moment the substitute could make a name for himself. There he is, Paul Burns. Neil Shaw with a kick up. Wilkinson goes for it, and Wilkinson fields it.
That's a great take by Wilkinson there. He showed all his confidence. Great Britain tore us a call, and it was needed because they really competed for that one, Barrow. Well, it was in the air, but this is where they're dangerous, Bradford Northern. Paul Medley coming on the charge. He can go 70 or 80 yards, but good defensive play by Barrow.
So that's one chance that's disappeared from Barrow. 8.5 minutes to go, 11 points to get. Little pass over the head. Didn't look like a bad one actually from David Hobbs, but Francis not quite able to get it. He was stretching for it.
Well, I don't think David Hobbs was too happy. I think he fancied that Richard Francis could have taken that one, albeit he didn't. But nevertheless, Barrow head and ball now, and they still fancy their chances.
Certainly 6 points now would set it up. There's Honey, there's Conlon. They clearly feel Conlon is the danger man here. And Pat Traynor as well linking up from fullback. There's Chris Honey. It's out to Westwood, he's fast as well. Crowd do roar when Westwood gets the ball. They obviously fancy his chances. That time it's Tony Kay, experienced man, ex-St Helens. Live Rugby League on Sportscast, playing for a place in the final 8 of the Silk Cup Challenge Cup, Rugby League's premier trophy. It has the glamour of that date at Wembley in May. And Kendall spills that ball. Won't be too pleased about that.
Well, he just took his half it there, David Kendall. He's had a great game. Both the Kendall brothers have given their all there, but they've got to stick at their task now, as you said, of trying to goal, put them right back in it, and Bradford Northern, they've known they've been in a cup tie this evening.
Certainly will. I mean, Bradford Northern, well, offside there by Kendall. That was stupidity.
Well, you can say it was stupidity there, but I thought Ian Wilkinson took a fair amount of time. If Bradford Northern had wanted to score very quickly there and the opposing side had taken that long to play the ball, I think they'd have been a bit upset the other way. So Ian Wilkinson, a little bit fortunate, I feel there, madam.
Yes, point taken, Ron. He did. We have seen dummying at the play the ball being given before as a penalty. And clearly Kendall, my mistake there. He was, well, it's a tremendous drive backward. That gets a great response from the Barrow crowd. They haven't given this one up.
Well, it was more like rugby union, that wasn't it, Marty? They really were crashing forward then with the charge on.
Still keeping it tight in the forwards, Bradford North. Understandable, I suppose. That ball's gone to ground.
Well, Fairbank it was who tried to get the pass out there. It went forward. It was picked up by McGowan, but I got to give great credit to Barrow. They've really stuck at their task. The floodgates could have opened, but they've come back. They scored the last try, and they're still trying. And who's to say they won't score another yet?
There's another two they need to lead. There's the score: Barrow 13, Bradford Northern 24. 11 points in it, 2 tries, 2 goals for Barrow, and it'll be they who will be travelling to Halifax in the next round. Bradford Northern, with all their professionalism here, holding up play there. Here's David Cairns once more. That's Chris Honey, his partner at half-back. These two have looked impressive, Honey and Cairns. Honey's still going, gets the ball away as well. It's Tony Kay, gets the ball away one-handed. There's the substitute, Paul Burns. Paul Burns goes round the outside of Medley. Well, could have perhaps been as well to pass the ball there on.
Well, that's a little bit of inexperience there by Burns. He did well. He went round Medley with great style. Roy Haggerty's just saying to him, think about the game there. That's the experience. That's why players like Haggerty come to a lower club and try and help the youngster there. Great run, but his job then was to stop him field and keep the pressure on Bradford.
5 minutes to go. 2 tries. It only takes a minute to score a try. 2 needed for Barrow. Bradford get the ball out of the scrum. Marchant with a little kick ahead for Caudle to chase. Caudle to chase this one. Caudle and Francis both on it. Well, he'll need to control it now, Caudle. He'll need to control it. He does, and he scores. Gerald Caudle there with a little dribble. Good little move there. Barrow pressing forward in search of the try there, and nice little kick ahead by Tony Marchant, Ron.
Well, they've really got caught cold here when we see this one. And Tony Marchant plays himself there. Just get ready. Little chip over the cup. Caudle very much straight in line there. Possibly a few of the Barrow supporters might have thought he was an inch or two in front, but everybody up, as you can see, well, didn't play for Cardiff City, that's for sure. But he eventually gets the ball, hacked over the line, touches it down, and does a good job.
Well, there we are. That's 28 points for Bradford. A little bit sad for Barrow, because should he kick this, that'll be 30 points up, Ron. People will see that in tomorrow's morning paper and in the North West Evening Mail tomorrow night up here. And they'll say to themselves, 30 points looks like a bit of a trouncing, but it's not really.
Doesn't really reflect the play at all, because there's one thing for sure, that some of the football Barrow played has been far superior to anything Bradford have played, and I don't mean to take anything away from Bradford there, but the sleight of hand of Barrow on many occasions has been excellent.
Well, there you are. You see David Hobbs kicks the goal. Excellent kick by David Hobbs, the Bradford captain. There we see it in all its stark details. Barrow 13, Bradford Northern 30. 3 minutes to go. We're going to see the 30. Well, we've seen the 30 points up there. It won't look good for Barrow in the morning papers, but, well, we who've been here tonight at Craven Park know they've put up a heck of a fight of it. And really, in Neil Shaw and Aaron Conlon and David Cairns, they've had 3 of the better performers. But here we see the First Division professionalism. There's Paul Medley. Not had a particularly good game, Medley, but in fairness to Bradford, the tackling has been there. And despite everything Barrow have thrown at them, apart from that once in the second half, the try for Neil Shaw, they've remained intact in their defensive line. 2 minutes to go. 30 points to 13. Bradford from the first division. That looked like a forward pass from Marchant to Gratian, but he got away with it. Little kick forward there by Darryl Shelford. Well, that's Steve McGowan in the centre there for Bradford Northern, just getting a bit of attention, but I'm sure that when he looks at that scoreline, 30 points to 13, it'll make him feel a good deal better. Still, he's going to be substituted here. There we are, Steve McGowan limps off, and he's replaced by Tony Anderson. Gets a run for the last couple of minutes for Bradford Northern. Well, just 1 minute to go, plus any injury time. Here's David Cairns. He's still trying hard, Cairns. Been a professional performance by Bradford Northern. A few mistakes by Barrow, and that was one of them. There's Tony Kay, but you can't really take anything away from Barrow. They've tried hard. They've played some entertaining rugby. Well, there's the announcement of the man of the match. And as we predicted, it was Neil Shaw of Barrow who got the man of the match. So, despite the fact they've lost 30 points to 13, they do have the honour of taking the Silk Cup man of the match. Neil Shaw, there it is, confirmation. As Ron and I predicted, and there's the man himself with a little kick ahead. Nobody, I think, will dispute that. I suppose David Cairns could have been a candidate for Barrow, but you'd be hard-picked to pick a Bradford man to choose as man of the match. I suppose Hobbs, for the influence he's had on the match. There's Marchant with a little kick ahead. And here's Pat Traynor. He's run well tonight, Traynor from fullback. Fault him maybe for a try, but you couldn't fault the effort that he's put in. In fact, you can't fault any of these Barrow players for the effort they've put in tonight. For 39 and a half minutes. It was that try really before half-time which was the killer. Still going there. They're still going with Sean Morrow, and this time Conlon. What a game Conlon's had. Very impressed with left centre. That's an excellent ball there to Morrow. Well, one pass too many there. There's Neil Shaw, the man of the match. Play on, says the referee, it's okay. So, let's see. Let's see if they can get perhaps 19 points up, or... There's Conlon still going. Well, Conlon must have run Neil Shaw very close. There's Haggerty. Inside to Morrow. Great pass there by Haggerty. Last tackle though. There's the hooter. Well, fitting really that it was Barrow putting in the effort at the end there, because they've really given us a game to savour here tonight, Barrow. They could have capitulated once, twice, maybe three times, but right until the end, they kept their heads up. A credit to the third division. A tremendous performance by Barrow. There's confirmation of the scorer. Well, Neil Shaw was man of the match, and you can see why there. 2 tries, 2 goals, 12 of the 13 points for Barrow, notched up by Neil Shaw. For Bradford, well, mostly from the forwards, the tries. That early one from Hamer, Medley scored one, Noble, the hooker, Shelford and Caudle, the 2 backs with the 2 late tries. Goals by Pendlebury, who went off early in the game, and then he was replaced by David Hobbs, the captain, a goal kicker, scored those 3 goals, including that very good one really from the touchline, which knocked a lot of the heart out of Barrow. And that gives us that confirmation of the final score here. Barrow 13, Bradford Northern 30. It means that Bradford Northern will be playing Halifax in the next round, the quarter-final. That's a match that will please their captain, David Hobbs, and he's with Ron Hill.
Well, David, you're in a quarter-final, but I think you'll have a message for Hull who've got to go to work and come into Cumbria. Not easy.
It's never easy. This don't make it any easier, but no, it's certainly never easy coming up here. But to win any cup game is a bonus, and we're just thankful to get through to that third round.
They gave a great account of themselves. You've got third division and first division, and of course they've wanted to do so well in the cup, and they made it very, very difficult.
Well, this has been a big event for this week, and unfortunately, I think the first division pace and power told in the end.
And of course, your next round now, you have to go to Thurmall and Halifax. What a great local derby for you.
Yeah, that's right. In the third round, it's obviously better to get an home draw, but all I can say to people is get there early.
And what about John Pendlebury? I understand he may have broken his jaw again, David.
John's gone off to hospital now. It's suspected fractured jaw again. So we just send his best wishes for John. And, if we have to do it without John or with John, I'm sure we'll be there.
And what about a great cup run? Is this important for your league position?
Well, unfortunately, as league position takes priority. The cup is a bonus for us, but the league is priority.
Well, they've done a great job here at Bradford tonight, because certainly Barrow, what a marvellous account Barrow have given. And Martin, I'm sure you've something to tell all those Cumbrian supporters.
Well, certainly no need at all for Barrow to be disheartened. They've had it's been a tremendous performance tonight. It means they're out of the cup, and Bradford Northern, as we can see there, will be in the next round of the cup. They're playing Halifax away. What a tie that is. That's one of three big derbies really there. Castleford versus Featherstone, local rivals in West Yorkshire. Halifax versus Bradford Northern. It's Hull FC who have the trip to Workington. So Cumbria still an interest in this.
Non-league football club faces hefty bills to rebuild its outdated stand, and Barrow's rugby league club near the foot of Division 2 is £250,000 in debt. Our sports correspondent Charles Lambert has been to the town to assess the situation.
The rugby league loyalists of Barrow gathered on Friday for a public meeting to debate the future of a famous club fallen on hard times.
Rugby league has always been a great part of our sporting tradition in the Furness area. There is concern about the fortunes of Barrow Rugby League at the moment, and we've decided to hold this meeting so that the fans, who after all really are the heart and centre of the club, can have an opportunity of having their voice heard about the goings-on at the club.
Supporters have become disillusioned by the team's poor playing record and the financial problems. The books are in such a state that the club's own auditors refuse to guarantee their accuracy. The local paper is running a campaign to get the directors out. Public patience is running thin.
Now surely they should be disqualified from holding office.
The directors weren't there to hear the exchanges. They believe they can come up with a solution. But the problem of running professional sport in a town which has suffered more than most from the recession is now acute.
40% of the working population are receiving benefits, whether it's unemployment benefit or sickness. And this has a knock-on effect throughout the town. The VSEL situation probably taken 80 million a year out of the local economy. Businesses are feeling it, and the person in the street is feeling it.
One plan is for the two clubs to share a single stadium and sell the other. That's a scheme put forward by Stephen Vaughan, a Liverpool-based sports promoter who offered to buy the rugby league ground and rent it to the two teams. In Barrow, the idea fell flat.
Well, they're very much like Merseyside people, and we've found that if you try to merge Liverpool and Everton, you get the same response, and that's what we've got up there. People just don't want to merge in one ground. They'd rather be independent. But to be independent, we feel that they're going to go bust.
Stephen Vaughan has now thrown in his lot with the football club, becoming a director and planning to guide Barrow FC to better things.
He impressed me and the rest of the board with his ambition to bring all kinds of sporting facility, and also he's put his money where his mouth is.
No disrespect to the lads from Liverpool, but do we need people from Liverpool?
Complaints that Barrow people aren't doing enough to help themselves were too much for one ex-player.
I got £100 when I signed on for Barrow, and I'm going to give it back. And I'd like Joe Hogan and Dennis Jackson to run Save Barrow Rugby. There you are.
It was a grand gesture which has inspired a campaign by the rugby supporters to raise £30,000, but not even that will solve all the problems.
Ultimately, I think we'll have to decide whether we're going to stop at Craven Park, have a cash injection through a debenture issue, or sell Craven Park and re-site the club.
The future remains uncertain. Charles Lambert, North West Tonight.
And we mustn't forget the City of Liverpool's men's